Let's talk elderflower. Elderberries are well known for their medicinal benefits, but did you know that elderflower also has many medicinal benefits as well? Welcome, y'all. My name's Loanna, and this is a little bit of homestead. Let me show you what we're going to do with this elderflower. The elderflower is the bloom for the elderbush that we get the elderberries in the late summer and early fall that we make our elderberry syrup, and it has many, many medicinal benefits. So today we're going to harvest some of the elderflower, and I'm going to dry some of it for some medicinal and cosmetic uses. Elderflower has some great anti-aging benefits along with all the other goodies that it has. We're also going to harvest some and fresh put it in honey, and we're going to infuse honey with the elderflower, and it is yummy. All right, I gotta go. The bugs are biting me. My strategy here is to get the ones way up high because that's the ones the birds would be getting when the berries come on. We want to look for the fully open blossoms. Now this is across the back side of our fence, and these bushes have gone wild, and they will be trimmed down and thinned down this fall. I'm always torn a little bit. It's hard to take the blossoms because I don't want to take away too many so that I have plenty of berries in the fall. But this year I think I'll be fine. This thing's loaded. Now let's go get these processed. As the blooms die off, they turn into the berries. That's what you see here. Here's the pretty blooms that were taken off, and they turn into the berries. It's so pretty out. I thought I would sit out here and cut off these little heads. The elderflower is known to be used as a diaphoretic. I guess I'm saying that right. Basically, it's been used historically as a fever reducer. So that also makes it a refreshing drink because of those properties to cool you off in the summer. So I'm going to take these little flower heads and I'm going to infuse them with I'm going to infuse the honey with the flowers. And we're going to let that steep in that honey for about, 5 days. And then we'll strain it off. And then that should keep up for a month because we're using the fresh flowers. If you wanted it to keep longer, then you would need to dry your flowers. And I have dried flowers, so we may do that as well. But I'll probably use it up pretty fast, so I'm going to use the fresh flowers. Now, most of what I've harvested, I have dried. And I'm not as particular about getting the stems off on the part that I have dried that I'll plan on infusing in an oil. In the oil, I'm going to mostly be using that for cosmetic purposes. Here I'm trimming off just the blooms so that in the honey we will have a purer taste of just the elderflower. Most information you come across, people will warn you that the stems and seeds and leaves are toxic. They contain a cyanogenic glycoside. And what that is it's toxic to humans if consumed raw in extremely large quantities. So don't be afraid when you are using your elderflower that you need to get every piece of stem and leaf out of it. You would have to consume an obscene amount, and then you would probably just end up with some gastrointestinal problems. I will link the video from the doctor and herbalist that I got that information from so that you can rest easy and not be afraid to use elder in any way. Now we're just going to pour in some honey. I'm using raw local honey, and it'll take it a minute. You just have to move it around and get it fully mixed in and get all the air bubbles out. We're just gonna make sure it gets all the way down in the bottom. It's a little trickier with the honey because it's so thick. But we're gonna get it completely covered. After about a week, I will be using this honey in maybe some sparkling water or some hot tea. Iced tea. And I will set this on the kitchen counter where I'll remember it, and I will turn it daily. And as this settles, I may need to add a little more honey, but I'll check back on it and see. Isn't it pretty? So we will keep an eye on this. Where the plant matter is fresh, we could have some of the consistency of the honey change where the moisture gets into the honey. So we may not need to add any more honey, but we'll keep an eye on this and make sure, because we absolutely do not want any of the plant matter above the honey where it could get exposed to the air and it would mold and get icky. So I'll keep an eye on that and we'll check it daily. Now let's infuse some oil with some elderflower. This is what it looks like as it dries. I've just laid it out on a paper towel and let it dry. And it will crumble off those stems real easily. And I'll store this in an airtight mason jar. I have a nice clean jar. This is dried elderflower that I dried last year, and once I found out that it had a lot of vitamin C, antioxidants, it is great for cell turnover, cell rejuvenation, and I'm bummed and really sorry, but I had technical difficulties and did not get a bit of footage of me pouring the oil onto the dried elderflower. So what I have here is I have my dried elderflower that I dried from last year, and I put about half of it in, and then I poured oil, and then I put the rest of it in, and then I continued to pour the oil until it was good and covered. And you can see it's kind of loose in here. Now, one thing with it being dried, this may plump up a little bit as it absorbs some of the oil into the dry matter. So we'll check it and top it off with any more oil if we need to. The reason I am making the oil for the elderflower is the elderflower is high in antioxidants, vitamin C. It's known to help reduce dark spots. It is a good fighter of free radicals. It's just antiviral, antimicrobial. It's just an all-around good herb for your skin. So I wanted to infuse the oil so that I can have it to make some of my own skincare products. I used apricot kernel oil. It is cold pressed apricot kernel oil. It already has within itself a lot of great qualities for the skin, and I use it in a lot of things for my skin. I use it directly on my skin. So you could also use olive oil, avocado oil, a sweet almond oil, any kind of carrier oil that you like to use personally on your skin. I personally am not a fan of olive oil on my skin, but a lot of people love it. It took about almost 16 ounces in this pint jar with it full of dried elderflower. So keep that in mind. So always label what you have in your jars. Trust me, you will not remember as much as you think you will. You will not. So label what the plant matter is and what the carrier is that you have it in. So this is elderflower and it's in apricot oil, and I have the date that I did it. Keep a check on this. I'll shake it daily, and in about 4 to 6 weeks I'll strain it off, and then I will have it available to use straight just as it is, or to mix it in with some of my other creams that I make. I make a tallow face cream, well, body cream. I use calendula oil that I've used from my own calendula plants, and I will be making more of that because I like to keep that on hand. It's it's wonderful. I love it. I just slather it on. It's great for eczema and psoriasis. I get some issues on my elbows, and if I keep that on my elbows with the tallow, the calendula, and a few other essential oils that I put in there, it just does wonders for it. So I look forward to adding the elderflower into my skincare protocol. I hope you all got some benefit out of this. We'll check back later and make some skincare products. And in about a week or so, we'll taste this yummy goodness. And I thank you all so much for spending your time with me. My name's Loanna, and this is Little Bit of Homestead.